What's up? Today we're gonna work on the Balalaika! Balalaika, said Balalaika, said Balalaika, said yeah. Balalaika, said Balalaika, said Balalaika, said yeah. Balalaika, said. Hi, welcome back to the shop. My name is Alex, and I make guitars out of my shop in Seattle, down by the airport. I also repair guitars and other stringed instruments. And yes, today we are working on the Balalaika. It is the Balalaika, an unusually shaped instrument. You might notice it is a triangle. We got the hypotenuse, the scalene, and the quadratic equation. This is a classical Russian folk instrument with a very unique triangular shaped body, and this particular balalaika is from the 1970s. It had seen a lot of use over the years. It's quite well constructed. It's definitely from Russia. And it looks like the balalaika is triangular in shape. It has 3 strings, usually on a balalaika. 2 of the strings are tuned to the exact same note. And the 3rd string is a 4th higher. When you hear this sound, you'll recognize it. Balalaikas come in lots of different sizes. There's the regular size balalaika, there's little balalaikas, and there's gigantic balalaikas. There's also orchestras, which consist completely of balalaikas. Finally, I get a chance to experience the balalaika for myself. This is a high value item, right? It's where fizzy meets cold. And also where those 2 things intersect with cheap. The only thing better than this stuff is just water. I can use most of this stuff. This is all quality material. Let's see. I could read the etymology of the word balalaika, but I can't even pronounce the word, so I'm not going to do that. Oh, here's a picture of a guy with a big balalaika. There's some different tunings. It's freezing in here. I can't feel my fingers. Whoa. The inside smells like pure nostalgia. All right, let's look at the maker's mark. I see it. The maker's mark itself is triangular. Haha. A lot of writing. The words are all in Russian, or Cyrillic. All right, Balalaika, baby, let's do it! It's the Balalaika, and I think it's gonna be a fun voyage. I hope you join me on this trip, and Soleil. I thought it would be kind of cool since we're working on a Russian instrument. Wouldn't it be cool if we filmed with a Russian lens? This is the Helios-44. So yeah, we're gonna shoot with the Helios 44-2. All right, we're back at the bench and we're gonna work on the Balalaika. I was gonna say balaclava. Okay, today we are back at the bench. Let's take a look at this beautiful, interesting instrument. Used painter's tape and a paper towel, soft paper towel, to keep that one point from touching on the bench and wearing down. I'll also be using this brace. Neck brace right here. You might ask, where shall we begin? The thing I'd like to start with on the Balalaika is the inlay. So, if you look right here, there's damage to the soundboard. So what I'd like to do to fix this problem is do an inlay using 2 different types of wood. Let me show you what I mean. This inlay is going to kind of look like the maker's mark that was on the inside of the instrument. Okay, you get the idea? But not just that. Right, so something like that. So let's go over to the wood pile and select some wood. 2 12 4x4 by 12 foot long Purple Heart logs. But maybe I've got scrap Purple Heart, because that would make sense, right? Hey, look what I found. Now that right there is a heart of purple. That's mahogany. I think I'm going to use that piece of mahogany. That's nice wood. Okay, so the next step in this process is going to be to prepare our work pieces, and that will mean thicknessing them down to size and coming up with a game plan. I think that we should do the mahogany inlay first. Let's figure out how the thickness of our soundboard. 1.85 millimeters. Total length of our inlay will be 2 1/16. I have marked on the wood where I'm going to cut the pieces down to size. And remember, grain orientation is important in this build because the original builders of the Balalaika cared about the grain orientation. Now we got these two pieces roughly thicknessed on the bandsaw. We're gonna put it through a thicknesser to properly thickness them. And what I've done is I've taken our two work pieces and I've put them on this, stuck them on the spare piece of black limba using double-sided tape. Okay, we're back at the bench with our work pieces. Let's see how they turned out. But here we go. Here's our pieces. Let us redraw our design onto it. The wood is going to want to split at every opportunity. So I think what I'll do is I'll do it in the middle to give myself a little bit more stability. Yeah, we want to do the center inlay first. That direction. These are awesome rulers, dude. It makes measuring so much fun. Yeah, we're always going to run into this problem that I've had my entire life of being left-handed, where it doesn't help the people who are watching me do things. Either I have to expect the world to adapt to me or myself to adapt to the world. Most often I've tried to adapt myself to the world because I don't think anybody should have to change themselves just because I'm a freak of nature. And I'm giving myself maybe like a 64th, somewhere between a 64th and a 1/28th of a leeway, because I know I'm gonna want to bring it down to the line instead of making the final cut right. Look at that, it just snapped right off. So thin. That's our little piece there. It looks pretty good. So the next part, we're going to actually cut this inlay. Let's give it a shot. Now that we have our inlay, again, not in a finished state, but a close to finished state, let's draw a center line. The actual edge of the instrument is this edge right here where the binding meets the instrument. That is going to be considered the perfect edge. So we're going to take the center line position from this to this. That would be where the original luthiers were marking their center line, so that's where this is going to be centered. So we're going to measure from that corner to that other corner. I got the protractor and this center finding ruler. Center finding ruler is not long enough, so we'll create a common point. We'll say 3 inches from this corner. It looks like it's pretty much in the corner there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now let's find the center of this soundboard. The purpose of this tool is to find the center. I like that for a center. That's a center. We want to draw a center line all the way up, right? But we're already noticing some inconsistencies because, okay, here is our center line, but clearly the center string is right here. So what gives? Let's find a square. That looks to be, so using this square to measure where the center line might be, Our center line appears to be in the center, whereas the bridge placement was a little bit over to the port side. Well, you know, now that I look at it, this inlay is off center. Look, there's less, it's a smaller space between there and there. The inlay is off center itself. In order to get the center line, we need to ensure that the two legs of the triangle are the same length. It is at 13 1/8. Yeah, 13 1/8. So the legs are identical. What that means is that we can use this as a reference point for our center line. I love rulers. I love rulers and measuring devices. Okay. What we got here is a Dremel set to a very, very light depth, an exploratory depth. So we're at the point where we place the inlay in its desired place. Super glue, CA glue, and in you go. Look at that. Balalaika. Cleared a good 4 feet with that one. To support the neck during this process, I'm going to use this piece of cork into which I have created this round divot. The next step will be to fashion a nut out of bone. I have a piece of bleached cattle bone here. I'll use this pencil, which has been flattened on one side. That'll give me general string height. And here's where the fun begins. We'll take this over to the belt sander.
All right. So my sincere hope is that if you're following along at home and you're going to do some bone nut work, that you load up on the safety gear. Because this part of the process, it smells terrible and it's disgusting. There it is, a nut. That's what I call a nut. All right, let's take this nut back to the bench and finish it up.
All right, we're back at the bench with our bone nut. First, I'm going to get the edges down so that it fits the side of the Balalaika. I'll stick it in the Stumac nut vise. This is a useful tool which simulates a string. Yeah, I'm happy with that. The next step, we'll put the tuning pegs on. Don't forget the bushings, the ferrules. How lucky was it that we found 3 matching ferrules? I actually found 6. They came off a Gibson ES335 guitar. And now they are on a Balalaika. I don't want to drill all the way through, that would suck. The screws that came with the tuning pegs might be too long. They are definitely too long. But look at this. Look at this. This is interesting. Check this out. This is how it came from the factory. Significant taper. I don't know, is that how all Balalaikas are? Did they just not care? I don't know. I also don't want to judge the people's work. I mean, these people were operating under a Soviet state. They probably didn't want to work at the Balalaika factory. But that means now I got to go find some other screws too. So, okay, I'm going to use these blue ones. These also came to us from the Martin factory. That's a perfect fit, and best of all, it doesn't go through the other side. And just like that, We got tuning pegs. Perfect. Looks good to me, man. What's your problem? Everything's gonna be good. Now let's do the tailpiece. This came out of a banjo. I got this tailpiece from the friends over at Pisgah Banjo in Asheville, North Carolina. That's where I get all my banjo stuff. I bet they would get a kick out of knowing that this old-time claw hammer open back banjo tailpiece is about to go on an official made in Moscow Soviet era Balalaika. Here we go. We got a guitar peg. So originally there were 3 pegs here, and they were plastic pegs, Soviet plastic. They crumbled in my fingers. Each peg individually held the loop of the string, and I wasn't going to do that because look how the strings, they dug into the wood over time. Whatever. So, and okay, we've got another one of these guys, a wooden, an abalone inlay on the top, which who knows where that abalone came from, maybe the South Pacific. So this is now truly an international instrument. Give it a little tap. And now, we got a balalaika with an Asheville, North Carolina tailpiece, a, wherever the Martin factory is, Martin peg. We've got boiled linseed oil, which comes to us from who knows where, Purple Heart and Philippine mahogany. Tuners, which are really high quality tuners, unbelievably high quality, wasn't expecting that. So maybe these actually came from Russia itself. These could be official Russian Balalaika tuners, or Ukraine. So just the tiniest little bit of super glue. And our little mark there. Can't believe it actually works. I was turning this thinking this is going to turn the E string. It's this one. This one's the E string. Think of all the adventures it's going to go on. Oh, I don't want to give it back. This is wonderful. Balalaika, everybody. Well, that's the conclusion of the Balalaika journey. Okay, you guys, we've reached the end of this project. The Balalaika is repaired. I left the patina on the back because it was original and from my childhood. And so I didn't want to change everything because we cannot run from the past. If you try to forget that the past exists, it will sneak up on you. You simply cannot. You have to face the past. You have to accept the past. And through accepting the past in yourself is the only way you can move forward. And so I left a little bit of the past on the back of the Balalaika. But the front of the Balalaika goes towards the future. All right, and that about wraps it up for the Balalaika. That was a really fun adventure we went on. We got to practice our inlay skills. We refretted a Balalaika, which is the first time I've ever done that. We got to make a bone nut for the Balalaika, also another first time. And I just had a lot of fun learning about and being around this instrument. Now, for a big surprise, I reached out to professional musician and Balalaika player Dmitry Kozyakov. And I asked him if he could translate the maker's mark inside of the Balalaika and provide a little background on the instrument I was repairing. Dmitry kindly wrote back, and this is what he said. MMP is the Moscow musical industry. RSFSR is the Russian Soviet Federalist Socialist Republic, a Soviet state that emerged after the October Revolution of 1917. The A.V. Lunacharsky Musical Instrument Factory was founded in 1926 in Leningrad, now St. Petersburg. It is the largest manufacturer of plucked stringed instruments. That's where the Balalaika was made. I can't tell you how grateful I am for that information, Dmitry. You really were able to bring this entire story full circle. Balalaika is an amazing and diverse instrument. filled with an amazing history of musicians and artists who have brought its sounds to life. And I think that's about it for this video. Also, if you'd like to check out Dimitri's music, I've placed a link in the first comment. I've had his music stuck in my head for the last couple of days. I truly appreciate you joining me on this journey, and I'm excited for you to come back, and thank you very much. Bye for now. Balalaika, Balalaika, Balalaikas and subscribe. How did I ever stoop so low? All of my choices led me to this place. Balalaika, 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 Balalaika.